Now the first thing I'm going to do is roll out my clay into a slab. I want to make a nice big slab so I can fit my whole hand on there. I want to make sure it's not too thin. If my slab is paper thin, that's going to be a problem. I want it probably about 1 centimeter thick. So I usually use a finger as a comparison. If it's about as thick as my little finger, that's probably pretty good. I'm going to put one hand on there, and I'm going to use my needle tool to just trace around and cut out my hand shape. One thing I find that is helpful is instead of trying to peel off my hand shape, I peel off the clay around that shape that I just cut off. It's much easier. Usually it's a good idea to wet and sort of smooth over those rough edges after I cut out a shape. So I just dip my fingers in the water. I'm not trying to get it soaked. I just want to get it slightly wet to soften the clay so that I can smooth over any rough. Next thing I'm going to do is take these scraps of clay and I'm going to roll 2 balls of clay. One of them is going to be a little bit bigger than the other. So I'm going to roll a nice big ball of clay like this. I'm going to smash that flat. Again, I don't want it paper thin. I want it probably about as thick as my little finger, about 1 centimeter or so is good. I'm going to use this to make my turkey's body. So I'm going to wet the back of it. I wet the palm of that hand shape. I'm going to scratch both pieces. I'm going to scratch. And I'm going to press it on. That's going to be my turkey's body. I'm going to take a smaller chunk of clay. I'm going to roll a smaller ball of clay. And I'm going to press that a little bit flat. I'm going to wet it, scratch it, and attach it. The water makes the clay soft and sticky. Scratching creates loose edges that get tangled together, kind of like Velcro. And then that final step of smoothing over the cracks helps to get the 2 pieces nice and unified. So I'm going to wet it, scratch it, and press it on like that. If I want to add a beak, I might take a little chunk of clay. I roll it in a ball once again. This time I'm going to press it flat against my table and pinch so it makes almost like a cone form. Sort of triangular. That'll make a nice beak. I'm going to wet it. I wet the base, scratch it, scratch, and press it together. The final step of smoothing over the cracks is really important. I want to make sure these pieces are really well unified. I usually recommend sort of pushing clay from one piece onto another. To make the eyes, I usually roll just little balls of clay like this. And again, press them flat. That seems like a good size, so I'm going to wet it, scratch it, and press these together. Again, wet it, scratch it, press these together. Now all of this I've been decorating using an additive method where I'm adding chunks of clay, adding bits of clay to decorate it. I could also use subtractive methods. I can press designs into the clay. Like I can press in holes to make the pupils on the eyes. Or I could scratch lines to make the texture of feathers. As with most things in art, how you decorate this is obviously largely a matter of your own personal taste and personal preference. I always try to look for opportunities to make my work stand out. And so I think about what are some features that I could add to this that might be unexpected details. Like maybe I'm going to have a turkey that's going to be a little bit formal and wearing a bow tie. So I'm going to press a little bit of clay down. I'm going to make a little triangle for one side of my bow tie. I'm going to make a little circle for the knot, and I'm going to make another little triangle. I might use this original triangle as a stencil, trace it to cut out another roughly equal sized triangle here. And as always, when I'm attaching pieces, I need to wet them, scratch them, and then press them together. So maybe my turkey's going to have a nice formal aesthetic. Or maybe I'll make my turkey wear a pilgrim's hat. Maybe I'll give it suspenders. Maybe I'll give it a top hat and a monocle. A top hat seems like a nice idea. So I'm going to, again, roll a nice ball of clay. I'm going to press it flat, and then I'm going to cut out my shape for my top hat. And of course, to add the feet, I'm going to take a chunk of clay, roll it in a ball, you guessed it, press it flat, roll it in a ball, press it flat, wet it, scratch it, wet and scratch, and attach feet at the bottom.